I think my mom wrote some of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. It's All Saints Day. It's the feast of all the saints. I'm going to sing. I'm going to try to sing. I'm going to do something that's adjacent to singing. I sing a song of the saints of God, patient and brave and true. You know it? Yeah. Who toiled and fought and lived and died for the Lord they loved and knew. And one was a doctor, and one was a queen, and one was a shepherdess, all in the creed, and then all of the saints of God, and I mean God, helping to be one too. Saints of God. Pauli Murray is a saint at General Convention 2012, oh Lord, and recently we voted, and I was there on the floor and voted in favor of Pauli Murray's sainthood. It was not an easy vote. It took, I think, 2 conventions and a lot of in-between work. Sojourner Truth said 1851, Seneca Falls, Ohio, in a room of white women who were gathering and organizing to secure the right for white women to vote. And Sojourner Truth stood up and said, "Nobody has ever helped me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed, I've planted, I've gathered in barns, and no man could heed me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as any man, and when I could get it, when I got it, bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most of them sold off into slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman?" Women did not receive the dignity of ordination until 1974. Pauli Murray could not be at the General Convention where again they voted against women's ordination, but she had been with those women, encouraged those women, prayed with those women, and when Carter Haywood said, "I do not want to do it anymore," Pauli Murray said, "You can't stop. You cannot stop." Pauli Murray was at their ordination. Barbara Harris was the acolyte. Yeah. The Right Reverend Barbara Harris and the Reverend Pauli Murray are the reason that this woman can stand before you today. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about my story because there's some parallels, I think, between what I have experienced and the ways in which Pauli Murray paved the way. Yeah, you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. In the 1990s, I was confirmed in the Episcopal Church. I went off to college. I decided I loved the church. I began to organize and do some justice work in Atlanta where unhoused people were being removed from where they were living to create a space for the Olympics. They were given, as NPR reported, one-way bus tickets out of Atlanta. Nobody asked where they were going. You just cannot stay here in downtown Atlanta. And I, as this idealistic college student at the Spelman's Women's College, was like, this is not right. How come people aren't, where are the people? This is problematic. Y'all told me you were all for Christ. Why are people being sent on a bus plucked out of their places. I didn't get it, didn't understand it, but did not have the voice, the place where my voice could be heard. And I wanted to put my activism and my faith together. So I went back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, the place of my birth, my home, the church from which I was confirmed, and I said to my rector, I'd like to be ordained to the priesthood. And my rector said, well, that's cute. Go back to college, finish college, do some stuff, and then come back. Well, I said, well, okay, well, let's think through this. I'm going to go back to Atlanta, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you again. I visited that rector 3 times, at the conclusion of which he said, yeah, no, I don't think that's really the best way for you to go. Again, come back in some years. My parents, always supportive, also said, well, the thing is, we sent you to college, and we anticipated, law school. So, continue to pursue that. That's a good way for you to go. I came back to Atlanta and went to my church, and the pastor there, George, a quiet assistant on a staff of 5, said, well, Glenna, why don't you just pursue ordination here in Atlanta? You're here. Just be here. So I said, okay, sounds good. The Diocese of Atlanta was doing their 2nd round of young vocations. Now, to be in the program, you needed to be confirmed and baptized and in a church. Now, I figured I was all of these things, but needed to get my baptismal certificate from the Baptist pastor in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I wrote to him and I said, look, I need this so I can do this. Months passed and I'm in the program. I said, I need this so that I can do this. Now, months keep going and now we're at 8 months. I really need this so that I can do this. That pastor, who I had never met, called me back and said, I do not support women in ministry. I will not be sending you this paperwork. But still like dust, I rise. The rector at the church I was serving said, well, we'll just give you this provisional thing because we know you've been baptized, so we'll just do this, and now you can go before the standing committee. And the standing committee, when I met them, I had concluded the process in the diocese and was encouraged to move along. Now I would have become the youngest, first Black woman, youngest to be brought up and sent to seminary and ordained, come back from the Diocese of Atlanta. Now, one would think once you got past that hurdle in the Diocese of Atlanta it would be easy. But yeah, Bishop Rabb, before he was bishop, was on the standing committee. And someone asked me the question. They said, well, if the bishop decides to send you to an all-white parish, what will you do? I'm older and wiser now and probably would answer differently. But at the time, I thought, well, I'm the only Black face at this table. I'm in the Episcopal Church. I'm not confused. Now, I would ask... I would be curious about why the bishop would find it appropriate to send me to rural Georgia, but I'm vowing to follow the orders of my bishop. I did not, and this I may have actually said, I did not just recognize that I'm a Black woman in the Episcopal Church, at which point this one started laughing over on this side of the table. As did the person who was there sponsoring me. into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I went off to General Seminary, one of 4 black students in all of the classes. I was the youngest person on campus at the time. I was 22? Pauli Murray was at General Seminary. She had petitioned in to be an irregular student. There were other women there. When General Convention said that they were not going to ordain women, Pauli Murray and the other women had to figure out, they were in a liminal space. What do we do? Where do we go? How do we continue? Pauli Murray decided that that was the moment that she needed to petition to be a student on the ordination tract. So instead of stepping back or moving to the side, she decided, oh, well, I'll just get my master's in divinity on the ordination tract. So you will ordain me. I will be a priest in the Episcopal Church. I too had some times at the General Theological Seminary. My first year, second month, one of the professors began to talk about the colored students and the ways in which, I don't remember what the rest of the sentence included. And I thought, oh dear. Went to the dean, had a conversation. The professor indicated that they were from Canada and couldn't keep up with nomenclature. That was in 1998. I then petitioned to take some of my classes because I had read the document quite well about where and how one needed to get that degree. I decided that I needed to take some courses at Union Seminary. James Cone was there, Larry Rasmussen, Dolores Williams, Black liberation theology, womanist theology, environmental racism. That's what I needed to learn. I needed to be at General so that I could be infused with Episcopal stuff, but the way that I needed to live out my prophetic voice was being taught at Union. And the dean said, well, Glenna, we have courses here, and we'd like for you to take your primary courses here. But if if you're reading the fine print, if one of your professors for the primary courses is on sabbatical or not available, you are welcome to take a class at one of the other sister schools. Breaking barriers, moving through walls. That's what Pauli Murray did. That's what the Right Reverend Barbara Harris did. They did what they needed to do to get where they are so that we could get to this place. Pauli Murray had spent decades prior to ordination. I was the youngest. She was the oldest at 62 when she went to seminary. She had already spent decades breaking barriers as a lawyer, poet, activist, scholar. Her faith was rooted in the belief that God's justice and human dignity were inseparable. Quote, I have lived too long and fought too hard to settle for segregation and second-class citizenship in the kingdom of God. I went back to Atlanta and served there for some years, and then was invited to come check out Baltimore. And I've told this story a few times. We were in Philadelphia at the reparations. Presiding Bishop Catherine Jefferts Shorey was kicking off the reparations work at St. Thomas in Philadelphia. And Barbara Harris came up to me, or maybe I was standing next to her, and I was like, yes, I'm Glenna. Glenna Reed was my name then. I'm Glenna Reed. She's, I know who you are. Yes, ma'am. She asked me what I was doing. I said, well, Bishop, I'm in between things. And she said, oh. And then she walked me around St. Thomas and introduced me to a lot of bishops. And she said, talk to her, talk to her. John Rabb said, okay, I will talk to her. Bishop Rabb took me out for food and said, have you ever thought about Baltimore? And I said, oh, yes, of course. I have thought about Baltimore so many times. He introduced me to the diocesan bishop, and they said they would call me, and they did. Now, I went back to Atlanta. We didn't have Google wasn't as efficient, so I had to actually look it up on a map to find out where Baltimore was, what Baltimore was known for. So I was like, okay, Maryland, I got it. So I came up here, and at that, I had not heard of Pauli Murray I was still in love with Bishop Barbara. And Bishop Rabb said, well, I'm going to take you to these churches, and I want you to do something. It's going to be really prophetic, and it's going to be groundbreaking, and we're going to try this thing, and we're just going to try it. But Glenna, Pauli Murray was at the Church of the Holy Nativity, and I'm going to take you over there. Now, Pauli Murray served at Nativity before it moved to its current location in Pimlico. It was in Forest Park or on Garrison Boulevard. And that church, not historically African-American church, it was a predominantly white church, as 1968, the white flight, so Holy Nativity was a white church. Bishop Layton was there. Bishop Layton, when I went to visit him, he told me the same story over and over again. And it's on the webpage, but Bishop Layton, he's a nice man. He did note that when I came to visit him that I was black. But he was an older man. He was in his 90s when I went, and he was just talking. And he said, well, I remember when that first black family walked into Holy Nativity, and they went downstairs, and people just came running up the stairs. I was preaching, and they slipped me this note to tell me there was a black family in the church. And what did I want them to do about it? Well, teach them. And the thing is, they came in, and it was a big hubbub. But Bishop Layton said, the thing that made the difference is that I went to visit them after they came to the church. And I invited them to come again, and again, and again. And that is the church that Pauli Murray, that is the only church that Pauli Murray served in. Was the church that broke barriers in the Diocese of Maryland. How could I say no to an opportunity to lead in a space that profound? Her time at Nativity was short due to declining health. But her presence in that space was a sermon in itself. A living witness that God's call to reconciliation is both personal, it's political, it's human, it's holy. A sign that God's promises are never bound by human limitation or lack of imagination. I rise up from a past that's rooted in pain. I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope, the dream, and the hope of the slave. Hope is a song in a weary throat. I sing a song of the saints of God, and I aim to be one too. May we all be empowered to carry the song of hope, even as our throats are weary.